What if you could go back to the moment you first started? When I got into sim racing, I had no idea what to expect. For some strange reason, even though I was not particularly good at it, I instantly felt that something worth pursuing. I enjoyed it like nothing else and I wanted to improve. I wanted to race all day. If I could go back in time, many mistakes could have been avoided and many successes could have been achieved faster. What have I learned after 5,000 hours in iRacing? Well, let's find out. First of all, good hardware won't make you faster, but having a nice rig, having a good setup will make you enjoying the experience a lot more. And because you enjoy your time in the rig, you want to spend more time racing. Because you want to spend more time racing, you will improve at a quicker pace. So it's a positive feedback loop in which you are improving, enjoying, improving, and so on. And what I think is that if you're on the verge of getting some new part of the setup, but you might think that maybe it's not worth it because you won't spend that much time, I can tell you from my experience, because I also thought this way, sometimes it can be true, but most of the time it's quite the opposite. It would have been helpful for me to understand a bit earlier that you don't have to see yourself as a victim whenever you're crashing. There's a reason why some of the top racers, which are driving all the day in officials, barely crash, and it's not luck. There's a skill involved in racecraft. After each crash, take the emotion out of it and just watch the replay. Watch it from a different angles and ask yourself, what could I have done different in this incident? And you will see you're doing a good job at it, where you find yourself in some instances of crashes where almost everyone would blame the other drivers, but you still find some points in which you say to yourself, okay, there's one small thing that if I would have done it differently, this guy maybe would not have crashed into me. So I encourage you to go on this path instead of being bitter about your races. Take the emotion out and just look for improvement points. You will see that you will improve so much quicker, and most of the time getting better results, it's just finishing races. To finish first you have to finish, and I think this is a valuable lesson, and the earliest you get it, the better time you will have into the simulator. Racing is an incredible technical feat. I did not have any background in motorsports when starting. I was racing a lot, but most of the time I did not have the slight idea or a plan to get quicker. I was just turning laps, and although I was still learning, the progress could have been a lot faster if I decided to educate myself sooner. After years of studying, I consider myself proof that given the right circumstances, the right mindset, and having the good resources, anyone can improve. That's the reason why I created my sim racing course and coaching platform, because I know how efficient it can be in the long runs and how much you can save in terms of time. Another thing that I believe is quite important to get it as early as you can is to find and feel the differences between setups. If you're driving different setup for the same car, the same track, but you're not able to feel any differences whatsoever, you just look at the lap time and try to figure out what setup is better, then that's a red flag. This shouldn't be the case. And for me, this was exactly the case. I could not feel if a setup was a bit more understeery or oversteery rather than the other setup. I would blame my driving and not the setup, which in a way is not bad, but it also shows that you're not actually knowing what the car is doing. So if you find yourself, you're not able to feel those differences in driving between setups, just take a moment and go back to fundamentals. Start doing some laps in which you're an observer. You just focus on the feeling of the car, the balance. What's the balance into the corner? That's a very powerful question. And once you'll be able to feel small differences between setups, then you'll be able to induce under or oversteer on purpose. You'll be able to use the curbs more to your advantage, and you don't have to be a setup specialist to do this. You just want to develop your feel for the car and for the setup. Another thing I wish I learned sooner is to be efficient with the time in the simulator. Use live telemetry tools for quickly checking your inputs when practicing. Use the active reset feature to try a corner over and over again until you master it, instead of spending a lot of time for the corners that you're already comfortable with. Find reliable resources for car track combination track guides. This will help you a lot in the long run. You learn by imitating others, but there has to be a point where you have to stop. In the beginning, that's how you get the driving technique, but there will be a point where you will improve so much more, where copying others won't yield any more results. There's a reason why there's a saying that every driver has his own driving style. Think of it as a fingerprint. Each of us have a print, or each of us have a signature that's gonna be a bit different from person to person. Of course, we can take those signatures and put them into bundles and then label them as patterns, but still you will have your own unique way of driving. And the moment where you explore your way of driving, and the moment that you are able to say, okay, this is my style, I want to develop the racing technique so that it will work for my style. At the point, I don't want to change my driving style for the technique anymore. That's a very powerful moment. And the moment that you realize that you don't have to copy others anymore, that's the moment where you go to the next level. Lastly, is it worth pursuing iRacing and safety rating? In my opinion, after so many races, I think that having a goal and an objective, it's a good habit, and it will mean that you will have some actionable steps to get to that goal. Let's say, for example, you want to get to 2K iRacing with an A-class safety rating license. Then you have to take some actions if you're right now at 1K, let's say, to arrive to your goal. So having goals helps a lot because you will improve a lot quicker, your motivation will be higher. But if you find yourself reaching the goal and feeling like an imposter, this is very common, and I felt like that a lot when I was climbing the ladder. It's part of the progress, but you don't have to get attached to the number of the screen. Instead, focus more on what you're achieving on the track rather than the number. The number will go up and down. It will never stay fixed unless you stop racing. So if you're still racing and you reach your milestone, then enjoy it. But then if you lose it, don't beat yourself over it. You will get it again. And if you find yourself not worthy, everyone is feeling the same. So you're in the same boat with everyone. This is very common. But in short, those are my tips. Those are the things I would say to myself if I would start sim racing again, iRacing specifically. I'm now curious to see what are your thoughts on it. What would you add to this list? Feel free to type it in the comment section below. And again, if you like this video, give it a like, a subscribe. It will help me with the YouTube algorithm so that I can produce more content like this. See you on the next one. Bye bye.